Hey everybody, my name is Alex with Hake Hardware, and in this video we are going to go over how to get a Autonomous Farmer non-cluster, so we're not using clusters in this guide, running in Windows 11 using the CLI. So this guide picks up after you've deployed your node. So as a prerequisite, you should have deployed your node. If you haven't, you can go back and check out the node tutorial, which will get a node running. You do need to have a node running before you deploy your farmer. And you should also have your disks prepared for your farmer. So if you haven't prepared your disks, there's a link on the left here for prepare farmer drives. Just make sure you're under Windows CLI and then prepare farmer drives, and that'll go over how to get your drives prepared in Windows. And if you've done all that, you can continue with the guide. If you're going to be using GPUs for plotting, make sure to check out the GPU plotting requirements. Certain GPUs are not compatible, and there's some requirements around driver versions. If you're on Windows and you have the latest drivers and you're running like an NVIDIA 2000 series or higher, you're probably going to be good, but it's always a good idea to check the plotting requirements for GPUs. All right, we're going to jump into Windows now, and I'm just going to be following this guide. A few notes. I'm going to be using the version listed here for my executable. Depending on when you're going through this, we might be on mainnet, we might be on a different date version. Just make sure to update it as needed. And note that I am using the V2 in this, and we'll kind of go over that in a second here. I'm using V2. If you're using Skylake, just make sure that also gets updated. And it's honestly just easier to copy. Well, when we get into the command, you'll see you can just auto-complete and it'll do exactly what you need. But let's jump over to one more thing, the subspace releases page. So there's kind of a lot going on here. The first thing you're going to want to do is find the one that's marked latest. There might be some release candidates or pre-release. You typically want to just go with the latest, because that's going to be the most stable. And then, as I mentioned before, there's V2 and there's Skylake. If you have a 2015 or newer Skylake, or CPU, you're probably going to want to go with Skylake. If you have an older, somewhere between 2009 and 2015, you may use the V2. But basically, for Intel, it's like Skylake architecture or newer. You're going to use the Skylake one, so you can look up your CPU and see where that fits in. And if you have a really old processor, it's probably going to work, but you'll need to manually compile it. All right, jumping down here, the farmer, we are going to go with Windows, we're going to go with x86, and we're going to do V2 for me. So that's what I'm going to do. If you're using Skylake, go with Skylake. And those are really the only two options for Windows. So I'm going to jump into our operating system here. And I have my node running, so it's still syncing, but we can actually get started on deploying the node or the farmer, and it will start plotting. But it's obvious, it's honestly going to run the best. I don't know if you can get rewards until it's done syncing. I think it needs to be completely synced before you can get rewards, but you can start plotting before it's fully synced. So what we're going to do is actually bring up and go to our releases page. And I think I might actually still have this downloaded, but I'm going to download it again anyways. Holy cow, I need to change the settings on this to be dark mode. Where is that? Under general? Dark. There we go. All right. And what we're going to need is V2. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now that we've got it downloaded, I can, oh, nope, that's ROCm. So yeah, there is actually a few different versions here. I don't want the ROCm. I believe that is for AMD cards. So I'm going to actually, yeah, down here. Okay, so this is what I want. Subspace Farmer, Windows x86 V2. You probably are going to want Skylake. Let's get that one downloaded. And I'm actually going to delete that one. And we're just going to cut. And then I'm going to go to my home directory. You should already have your Autonomous folder and a node there. I'm going to create a new folder, call it Farmer. and then paste that executable in there. Now I'm going to right click, open in terminal. That's going to bring up a terminal in the farmer directory. So now we need to prepare to execute our command. And in order to do that, we need to know what disks we're using. So for me, it's easy. I know that I already started plotting to this, but this farm-1 for my X drive, I'm using this entire drive to farm on. So I want to use the X drive path. Now, if you have like multiple drives, you can use multiple drives. I'll show you how to do that in the command, but just make sure you're selecting the correct drives and then go back to the command line. And the first time we do this, we're just going to type it out, but then we're going to actually create a deployment script that will allow us to just double click our script and launch our farmer, which I think is easier to maintain. And I think most people that are using Windows, they're doing it this way because it's a little bit painful to paste in the commands here. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is /, and then you can just type in like sub and then click tab. And that's what I was talking about with like the autocomplete. And then we're going to do farm. So that is, we're going to be setting up a farm here, --reward -address. And you're going to need to paste in your reward address here, which I need to grab. I can get it from subwallet. And then I'll just paste it in there. And then after the reward address, we're going to do -- Prometheus listen on. So this is going to enable metrics. It's technically optional, but this is going to allow us to scrape metrics with Prometheus and create a cool dashboard with Grafana in a future guide. --node -rpc -url. This is another optional one. If your node is on the same host like mine is, I have it running, in this other terminal over here. You don't need this command. The default command is to look at the local host on port 9944, which is what mine's running on. So you don't really need to specify this. I'm just going to see if I just type in that, I believe. I'm going to specify it just for an example. Then --node. Nope, not node. We already did node RPC URL. Oh, I put RPS. I don't know if anybody caught that. RPC URL. And then the one that's different is the path. So there's not a --, it's just path. That's not a typo or anything. And this is where I'm going to put in my x:/drive. That's where my farm's going to be. And then we do comma. There should be no space. Size equals, I'm just going to do 180. I think I could do 190 gigabytes. Sometimes the conversions are sometimes. About that, my mic decided to just turn off. So it's always fun. I used to do that a lot. I guess the setting that automatically turns it off got reset or something. Okay, so we have 190 gigabytes, and the last thing we're going to do is just like a pipe here, and then t-object-file path farmer-output.log, and then -append. Now, that's a lot of typing. I might have made an error in here. We're going to find out. But this should get my farmer started. Okay, looks like we're in good shape. If you don't get an error like right away, typically it's okay. All right, so we're right now syncing our piece cache. That's going to happen first. It's really small for the size disk I have, so it's going to sync the piece cache actually really fast. And then once that happens, it technically says it's plotting, but it's not really going to plot. You're not going to see much progress until the piece cache almost finishes, and then it'll start picking up speed, and you should be plotting pretty quick. You can see way up here, that CPU plotting was disabled because I have a GPU. Using CUDA GPUs, if it says used CUDA devices 0, that just means device 0. So I have one GPU, it starts with 0. So we're using the one GPU that I have. And yeah, this piece cache is it might not go very fast if you have a lot of disk space. So the piece cache is 1% of your total disk space. I only put 190 gigabytes, so that's not a whole lot to sync for your piece cache. But if you have like 20 terabytes, then you're probably going to be syncing your piece cache for a little while. So if yours doesn't go as fast as mine, no problem. And so that's really it for getting your farmer running. But let's say you add more disks or you remove disks or you upgrade to the new version. Like, yes, you can just, Control C, press the up arrow, modify what you need, and then you're done. But I prefer to create a script. And it's really easy to do, and I find that it's a lot easier to maintain. So you can just type in Notepad to open up a Notepad here. And I got some old stuff here. It's a little confused. Let me just reopen that. All right, so I've got a new Notepad open here. Well, it's working on it. There we go. And I'm just going to copy the example from the wiki and paste it in here. And what we have here is a variable that we're setting up for the log file. So it's just the current directory that the script is running from, and then it's going to output it as this farmer-output.log. And then here's the script. So you'll need to modify this. If you're running Skylake, you'll swap out that v2 for Skylake. If you're running a different, if it's mainnet that's out, you'll swap that. Basically, you're going to swap that with the command that you just ran on your own computer. You're going to put in your own reward address, which I actually need to update the wiki so it doesn't just have my reward address in there. Actually, I think I am going to leave it in there because it's an example. And then Prometheus listen on, RPC, then the size of your disks, and then the output. So we can save this as a .ps1 file. So file, save as. You're going to change this text document to all files. And then I'm just going to do farmer.ps1, save. And now we can close this. And if we do dir, we can see we now have a farmer.ps1 file in here. And it basically does the same thing as what we just did. So if I do, instead of doing actually I think it's this way. Yeah, like instead of running our command like that and typing out all the things, I can actually just do farmer.ps1. Oops. I need to update. It, but all right, let's go back into our, I see what the error is. We'll go into farmer and you can just double click this to edit it. And as I was telling you before, I don't know why I accidentally put path even though I said that you didn't need to do that. And I also don't have this 200 gigabyte disk here, so I'm going to remove that. I only have one disk, so we'll do file, save, exit out of that. And you know what's cool is you can actually just right click and do run with PowerShell, and it just starts it. So you don't actually have to go in to your terminal and launch it and all that stuff. You can just right click it and you can see it's picking up right where it left off. It's finished the piece cache synchronization actually already, so we're good on that front. I can actually close out of this because I'm not using it anymore. But at this point, it's farming. It's going to be a little slow on this computer, but if I go into Task Manager, what we're going to see is there's going to be a lot of Ethernet usage. So we're at like 50, 60 megabits per second. It's going to be downloading the pieces for the cache if there's a miss, and then you're going to see the GPU spin up. So it's pretty normal to see like internet usage, GPU spikes for a bit, and then internet usage, GPU spikes for a bit. If you're not getting full GPU utilization, there's a few things you can do. It's kind of out of the scope of this guide, but I'm hoping to do a guide in the future for like specifically GPU plotting, because a lot of these optimizations can be done on Linux, they can be done in Docker, they can be done in Windows. So I kind of want to like cover them all at once. But for right now, it's kind of outside the scope, but you should see your GPU kick in after your internet usage downloads enough of those piece caches where it starts to plot. And that's it. So you've got your node running, you've got your farmer running, and I feel like I'm kind of flying blind right now. So you do get these log files, but like I don't know, it doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy, and I don't really know what's going on. So right now I'm not really too sure what's going on. I'm like, oh no, is it stuck? Like I can see in Task Manager it's downloading stuff, but this is where Prometheus and Grafana really help because you can actually set up a dashboard and there's a lot more metrics that don't show in the logs that you're going to get from the metrics, like downloading sector time and audit time and plot times, like all that is in Grafana, and it's actually pretty easy to do. So I recommend the next videos are optional with Grafana and Prometheus, but I highly recommend them. So that's going to be it for the farmer video. If you liked it, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.